So Ashley, hi, welcome back
Hi.
to
Hi,
this.
Jay.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. What's been up since the last time we talked?
Well, I went to visit my family in Charlotte. What kind of wine are you drinking?
Oh, bottle of red, bottle of white, whatever kind of mood you're in tonight.
You doing half and half?
No.
Okay,
I
God.
was quoting a Billy Joel song.
So yeah, I saw.
Sorry about the tangent.
Yeah, I know. I saw my parents, and this time around it was just me because my brother and his fiance went to visit his fiance's family who live in Michigan.
Right. What part of Michigan?
So, wait, what? Huh?
My goal is to distract you as much as possible with relevant questions.
Good work, Jay. I think you are succeeding so far. Yeah. So they're in Michigan, and as well, as compared to Thanksgiving, where with their uncles and aunts and cousins and such to sort of have a buffer for such things,
Do you mean a strong ally buffer or a...
there was a lack of allies readily available, and I wasn't sure how that might affect things. So at any rate, I went to see my parents, and I wasn't sure how they would be going with things, with my
Yeah.
name and pronoun and all that kind of thing.
Because why?
Well, over Thanksgiving, it seemed like they were starting to step into the right direction, but they also had lots of, I don't know if positive reinforcement is the right word, but they had lots of aunts and uncles and so on who would kind of nudge them back on track if they kind of were astray. So I was there, and I arrived in Charlotte, and my dad picked me up at the airport, and he says, "Hi, Ashley," and I said, "Hi, Dad," and that was great. And
Right
then
on.
we headed on our drive home, and then I guess I got in around 4:30 or something like that.
PM?
Wait, what, huh?
PM?
Yes, yes, PM, yes.
Okay. Specificity is the soul of narrative.
Yes, that's a good point there. Yeah, I get in around 4:30 p.m. and my dad offered me something to drink. I think he said something like, "Can I get you something to drink, Ashley?" And my dad was actually pretty much seemed to be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And my mom was home, of course, and she and I had talked a bit about how was your flight and that kind of thing. And I noticed that she wouldn't call me Ashley. She kept seemed to be calling me Snooks.
The scoreboard from Thanksgiving, she called you Ashley twice, right? Over 4 days.
My mom called me Ashley 3 times over
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
But much less than your father did.
Right. Over Thanksgiving, my parents cumulatively called me Ashley 16 times. So 3 of those for my mom, the rest of those for my dad.
So she hadn't changed much between Thanksgiving and December 20-ish.
Yeah. So I think the 3rd or 4th time when my mom called me Snorks, which seems to be kind of her go-to substitution for my name, I think she said something like, "At Snorks, we'll be having dinner around 6 o'clock." And I said, "I'd prefer if you call me Ashley." Because at this point it had been 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So before my mom could chime in and reply, my dad interjects and he says, "Well, we said that we'd like to call you Ashley in public. And besides, we still like Snooks and we'll use that sometimes too." So this is parroting his line from, I guess, around October when I talked to them.
Yeah.
When they were saying, "Oh, we'll try to use the name in public." As if that was like some grand conciliatory whatever. And it was just weird, though, that my dad, of all people, who seemed to be kind of getting on track with things, was the one going on the defensive for my mom. So I didn't really get where that was coming from.
Not that I agree with him, but I can understand why he might jump in there because he is trying to balance 2 different relationships.
Yeah, he probably doesn't want to get on my mom's bad side, and I guess, or...
Something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think these days is their motivation for wanting to call you Snooks instead of Ashley? At least they're not stubbornly sticking with your birth name.
Right. My Aunt Angie, who's been an awesome ally, she told me, I guess, after Thanksgiving, that she had had a talk with my parents.
Oh.
I think it was around September or so. She's been trying to get through to them to the extent that she can. I think she said that their dad, this would be my grandfather, but Angie's dad and my dad's dad, she was saying that Dad would be distraught if this kind of thing tore the family apart. And is it really worth losing a family over this?
Wow.
Yeah. And I know my dad has a strong devotion to family, and maybe that's something that he'll get through to him.
But not so much your mom, maybe.
My mom, I mean, she may not she's certainly devoted to our family, but that might not be as passionate a thing for her.
Well, as I recall, it used to be that they would say, we don't like the name Ashley, as if that was a valid argument, which it is not.
Right. Yeah.
Do they say that anymore?
Yeah, I haven't heard them say that they don't like my name. I mean, because certainly my dad uses my name, at least around me.
Right. And definitely in public.
Right. I think part of it may be that they don't want to lose their relationship with me, and certainly I don't want to lose their relationship with them. Although my distancing myself from them was not something that I relished in any sense.
No.
The other thing I noticed with my parents, and it was kind of a tell, is that whenever they would talk one to the other about me, they would always use male pronouns.
While you were there?
Yeah.
What? This is news.
My dad may have used she a couple of times, but by and large, they would use he when they would talk to each other.
That hurts my brain.
Well, the thing is, it would seem to suggest that they're using my name and pronouns around me, but as soon as I'm gone, never mind, back to the old plan.
That seems harder. That seems like a harder life to live than simply doing one thing the whole time.
Unless you're stubborn.
Yeah.
So I have my FFS coming up, and I want to tell my parents about that because I felt I kind of owed it to them. Because if nothing else, I thought, well, I'm not going to have much cell coverage, so I at least wanted them to know that if they tried to call me, why is it going to voicemail, whatever. Of course, I had a couple things on my plate. I wanted to tell them about it, like when it was, but also I'm sure they wouldn't have known what FFS is. So I told them, I said, I want to let you know that I'm having surgery in mid-April for facial feminization surgery to help me have a more feminine appearance.
Sure.
And their general reaction was not as outlandish as I thought.
Okay. What were you expecting? Do an impression of the face you expected to see. Wow. Yeah, that's outlandish.
Yeah, I know. Because I figured that they would think, well, that's stupid. Why would you want to change and look different from the way you grew up or whatever? But they kind of had sort of a cool demeanor about it. They say, oh, okay, well, thanks for letting us know.
That doesn't surprise me from your father, at least, because he's super stoic.
Yeah. And as I went to elaborate on the surgery, I mentioned to them that it's not particularly cheap, and it doesn't help that most insurance companies, in fact, almost all of them, consider it to be an elective procedure, even though it's medically necessary.
Explain the medically necessary part.
If you were to have a soldier at war who had stepped on a grenade and his junk was messed up.
By which you mean genitalia?
Yeah, sure.
I don't like that euphemism.
Okay.
I find it derogatory. Is it a synonym for garbage?
No. So if you had a soldier who had his genitals mangled from a grenade or something, then you would be considered a matter of course that they would be given reconstructive surgery so that they can retain their quality of life.
And that would be covered?
Yes.
Because he's a soldier, or under any plan?
I think certainly for soldiers, if you were just a regular civilian and you somehow mess things up in a car crash,
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that would probably be covered.
Okay.
I mean, by the same token, if someone with boobs had a mastectomy, they can often get implants or the like to restore some of that.
Yeah.
So FFS falls in that same type of category because of the emotional strain of having a face that doesn't match what your body is expecting it to be.
Okay. Does that mean you don't think you look like a woman? Or is it a spectrum thing? You think you could look much more womanly?
I think it's a spectrum thing. I mean, it's funny you should mention that because I was just thinking the other day, it was May of 2012 was the first time where I could consistently look in the mirror and see more or less the right gender looking at me.
Okay.
But that's keeping in mind that I've been on HRT since November of 2010.
Yeah.
So
Do you think it's been pretty steady since May of 2012 then? Or do you still feel like you're making small progress?
I think it's kind of plateaued because I've been on HRT for, I guess, a little over 3 years now.
Yeah.
And it seems to plateau about after the first 2 years, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that I look like my gender most of the time, but I always have that nagging worry in the back of my head, like, what if I go to the store without makeup? Will I still be perceived as my gender, or...
Okay.
Because I'm not sure how close I am to that cusp. With my dad, I was trying to convey to him that it's a medically necessary procedure, and...
Did he raise an objection, or were you feeling defensive in advance?
No, I mean, this was the part where I guess that I was trying to explain how much of a cost I'm incurring.
Okay.
And I was saying about how it's like $20,000, and although it's medically necessary, insurance companies almost never cover it.
Yeah.
And my dad was saying, he thought about it and said, well, I can see why they consider it elective.
Did you ask him to clarify?
I didn't ask him to clarify because I sort of knew what he was thinking, that he was sort of thinking that this would be in the same category as a cisgender person getting a nose job or something. That it's not really just a vanity thing or even much at all that. It's more of a reconstructive surgery in a sense.
What if I just wanted a longer penis? What if I wanted to be the world record holder? Because I wanted to feel much more masculine. What would your father say to that?
He would probably think that would be elective. And I think it would be, since you already have a penis.
Uh-huh.
And as far as I know, it's within the norms of what penises are.
I'm just trying to find where the line is, you know? If you had no nose and you wanted to go get a nose, your father would be fine with whatever nose you wanted to pick, right?
Sure. Well,
He's
I
fine
wonder...
and he's fine with you having breasts, visibly female breasts, right?
Well, this goes back to the whole stiff upper lip thing. I'm not sure I'd say that he's fine with it, but he has certainly not spoken up in objection of it.
Ever? Or has it been a while?
No, he's never said, like, why do you have boobs?
Yeah. I don't remember, was there ever a time where he complained about you wearing female clothing? I think there were some instances, one or two maybe, where your mother was like, oh right, you're wearing a dress. Ah. Or something like that.
I think it was one of the times where I was coming for Thanksgiving, and my parents hadn't seen me in many months. And so we typically invite some of our neighbors over, the butlers. They just live next door. And so my mom went to warn them or whatever because she was like, oh, but you look like such and such an address or whatever.
Oh, right.
Because she hadn't yet seen me in that scenario. Because she probably pictured like a drag queen kind of thing with this like giant blonde hair and whatever else. And
Right. Anyway, your dad said it was elective, and you said, but.
And I said, no, this is a medically necessary surgery. It can improve the lives of trans people. And they sort of went around that a few times. And you were saying earlier about how, well, surely there must be some dividing point or what have you.
I should think so.
And, I mean, have I told you about when I was electrocuted as a child?
Electrocuted? No.
My finger. Well, both my parents grew up in South Africa. And so when I was, I think, 2 or something, they were visiting their parents who lived in South Africa. So I was there just like crawling around the floor, or whatever babies do. I don't know how babies work. So I apparently grabbed an extension cord where some of the insulation had frayed.
Oh, wow.
And of course they were on 220 volts there, so that didn't help things either.
I suppose not.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you can see this on my finger.
Huh.
I mean, here's like a regular finger for comparison.
Sure, thanks. Wow.
Yeah.
I never noticed.
I know, I mean, I don't make a thing of it, because at any rate, they took me to the hospital and stuff and stitched me up or whatever, and there was, for quite some time, sort of a webbing of scar tissue that went across this way.
Oh.
And when I was around 20, I had additional surgery to remove most of that.
Oh.
Yeah. So it used to be...
Why so long?
Well, because there was this webbing and I could extend my finger about to this far.
Okay.
But it didn't hurt. It didn't prevent me from using tools or whatever. It was just kind of annoying.
Okay. That didn't impair your typing?
No, not really. Well, there were a couple of if a key was really far away, it might be a little tough, but...
Yeah.
Those surgeries, I believe, were covered by insurance because it's like, well, you fucked up your finger, or not that you did it on purpose, but your finger has electrical burns or what have you, and this would be covered to fix it. So, I mean, certainly that my dad was like, I'm sure he would agree that should be covered. But
okay, that's a really good example.
Yeah,
because it is almost cosmetic,
right?
But it's certainly functional.
But it goes back to the quality of life thing, to what you would expect to have, that kind of thing. Yeah.
It may just be that I spent the last 30 years being told certain things about what health insurance does and doesn't do. And I never lived in Europe, so I don't know any other way. Or Canada.
Yeah. I mean, was your expectation that fewer things or more things would be covered than you thought?
I think most insurances are a scam unless they're not.
Yes. And so far, the unless they're not ones have eluded me.
Yeah. So I imagine it ended up in that conversation with neither of you agreeing with the other.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And did your mother say anything? Or did she go off to go get more wine or coffee or pie?
At one point, I think my mom chimed in to say, we like you the way you are, which is the kind of thing that could be a caring statement if it was coming from a friend, saying, as if to say, we also like you the way you are, but
right.
Coming from my parents is more like, we would prefer you not to change the way you are.
Yeah. Then what happened?
Things pretty much carried on that way with my parents, that my dad would usually get my name and pronouns until he was talking to me. Mm-hmm. He would mess up my pronouns when he was talking to my mom, and my mom would mostly call me Snooks. She may have called me Ashley once or twice. It really seems to be going slower for her.
When she would call you Ashley, was it very pointed, or did it seem just as casual as when she would not call you Ashley?
You could tell there was a conscious effort. Like she would have Like, it might be something like, when's your flight tomorrow, Ashley? Because, like, it was as if she was trying to, like, get in her quota to stay on my good side.
Wow.
So she would toss in, I'm imagining here, like, just enough to try to get there. Although she was still falling way short. It was just, like, the most cursory level of occasional Ashley.
It sounded like you were Harry Potter trying to say Diagon Alley, but you said Dagon Alley.
Okay.
So your parents are not into FFS.
Not really.
Did you show them any before and afters of other people? Were you real specific about what was going to happen?
I did describe the various procedures that would make up my FFS.
Yeah.
And they sort of listened and sort of had that look of like students in graduate level science class after a heavy night of drinking. Because they were just like,
Yeah.
After I covered the basics, they didn't really seem that interested in much more than that.
Okay. Did they seem at all concerned that you were going to a different country where you didn't speak the language and that you were spending a whole lot of money that you could otherwise not spend?
They didn't mind that I was going to another country. I mean, my parents travel a lot, but also my mom did at one point say something like, well, Buenos Aires must be pretty nice for sightseeing. And then she thought about it and said, although I guess you won't be doing much of that. Like, thanks, Mom. Yeah.
Wow.
On Friday, a bunch of my trans friends from Twitter met up and...
Do you want to give them a shout out?
I would like to give them a shout out. Yeah, among others, I saw Jen and Danny and another Danny and Savannah and just a bunch of other people. I'm sure I'm forgetting some now, but it was fun. We went to a coffee shop and had some coffee things there, and then to dinner afterwards. It was nice. So overall, the trip was mostly fine, although I still was left with this nagging feeling that maybe my parents were kind of trying to go through the motions while I was there, but not so much while I was not there.
Am I right in thinking that this seems like a step backward from Thanksgiving?
It might be a slight step backward. My dad seems to be mostly similar, but with my mom, it may be that because I had become as distanced from them, maybe she was trying to be especially accepting or whatever over Thanksgiving, and perhaps she...
Oh, I see.
Didn't try as hard over December.
Like the parental equivalent of you really angered your wife, so you better come home with flowers sort of thing.
Right, that'd be Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then December would be oh, I'm sure my wife is over it by now, so no more flowers.
Right.
When I got home back to Dallas, I called my folks just to say, like, hey, I've landed, and I called my dad, and I said, oh, hi, Dad, how are you? And he said, hi, Ashley, how are you? So it was nice that even over the phone he did that.
Oh, was that a first?
I think that was a first.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
All right, well, small victories.
I know.
You're super nice.
Well, I try to be.
You're super nice.
Thanks.
I feel, when you talk about your relationship with your parents, I feel like a big jerk. But I don't know what we would talk about if I called them as frequently as you talk to your parents. Anyway, the show's not about me.
That's okay.
So now what?
So, do we teach you something girly? Ladylike?
Yeah.
Do you know how many jobbies I have?
I'm going to guess 2.
2 jobbies! So I got some new hand lotion. And I know, what? You seemed like skeptical J face already.
Even I use hand lotion.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So you probably remember this one. We
yes,
talked
I do.
about, earlier show. So this one is CeraVe moisturizing lotion.
Yeah, that's the one we talked about on Thanksgiving episode.
I think so.
Yeah.
And this is a really nice moisturizing lotion. It's good all-purpose. It absorbs pretty quickly, and you can get it at Target or probably CVS or
I
whatever.
have seen it at CVS.
And the weird part with this one, of course, is that it seems to be housed near the makeup remover wipes and that kind of thing, as opposed to near the other hand lotions. So this other one is a hand lotion from OPI.
All right. It is
This one...
OPI Aqueous. No? What does that say?
Apple juice, I think this one says.
It won't focus. Will you spell it out for me?
Yeah, AVOJUICE.
Okay. Avo
Yeah.
juice.
Now, of course, you probably recognize the brand OPI because, like,
You mentioned it several
nail
times.
polish,
Yeah.
which is like this one is
Is that the one you're wearing?
Wait, what, huh?
It's pretty Halloweeny. What is that called?
This one is called Designer Series Luxurious.
That's the name of it?
Yep. Well,
doesn't-
Designer Series is like a line of theirs.
Okay.
And I guess this is luxurious within the Designer Series line.
All right.
Designer Series mostly means that we charge you a little bit extra for this color, for whatever. Yeah. So this one, my friend Katie gave me is just sort of a trial one, because you can get like a 4-pack of different scents or what have you.
Okay.
What's nice about this is it too absorbs pretty quickly, and it's got lots of fun scents. Like this one is ginger lily, and there's one that's jasmine, and there's another one.
Lavender.
They smell really nice.
I'm sure there's a lavender one.
I only just got this a couple days ago, so I've been kind of trying it out, and it's absorbed quickly. It smells very nice. I guess the one downside is, so this one, the CeraVe, this one, I guess it's like, I don't know, $11 or $12 or something like that.
Yeah. For how many ounces?
This is for 12 ounces. If you were to get the full size of this OPI one, which would be 6.6 ounces, that runs $8. So now you're probably wondering, well, what's the better deal? Don't worry, I already did the math.
Thank you.
If you were to find the equivalent price, this one would only be $11 or $12. If this were OPI in this size, it would be $14.50.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more expensive,
Yeah.
but not,
But it smells good.
yeah. So it's the kind of thing where, I mean, and you can get these at Ulta, I think, among other places, so it's not as widely available as maybe the CeraVe, because I don't know that Target would have them, for instance.
Yeah.
And all the same, yeah, it does cost a bit more, but if you want to treat yourself, yeah, why not? Maybe now and again, because it's not too outrageous, and hey, it's nice.
Do you have a second jobby?
Yes, I do have a second jobby. So this one is an app for your phone.
What? What?
I know.
Cool.
So it's called Timeless, and it's a countdown timer.
Sounds like my phone already comes with that.
Yeah, and you got like a flippy jobby thing. Let's see if this works. So you can move the time up and down.
Uh-huh.
So this one is like 17 minutes, and now it's...
What is it? What else
9
does
minutes.
it do?
It's a very nice interface.
Set a timer for 9 minutes.
God, you're such a smart ass.
Okay, 9 minutes and counting.
I know. Okay, well, the nice part also is that you get a preset. So like this one is for... So this one's like nails 15 minutes, nails 20 minutes, nails 45 minutes,
Okay.
or poached egg 4 minutes.
Okay.
I know, because I like poached eggs. They're delicious.
Oh, yeah, they're there.
So for when you're painting your nails, as you may have already seen this going, it's quite handy because you might want 10 or hopefully 15 minutes between your base coat and your first color coat and so on. And then that way you got them all in there. Plus you get a nice selection of pretty sounds.
You've got preset timers.
Yeah.
Could you actually name them, or do you have to remember which one is which?
No, you can name them. Yeah, I've named them.
That's
like
pretty cute.
the one that's, I mean, this is kind of dumb, but the one that's for 15 minutes, I named nails dash 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. The one that's 20 minutes, nails dash 20 minutes. Although, to my credit, the one that's 4 minutes, I labeled just poached egg. So, because I only have one poached egg one. I don't have to differentiate the different poached egg ones.
I asked for one 4-minute egg, not 4 1-minute eggs.
Yeah. I don't know where
That's from the movie Ever After.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
Okay.
I only watched it once. It's not something you need to watch a lot. Not like a Grosse Point Blank or Back to the Future or Shaun of the Dead.
I should really watch Grosse Point Blank all the way through.
Oh, so good.
Because I think the first time I rented it, I think I fell asleep or something.
That's fine. I fell asleep the first time I watched Doctor Strangelove. All right, well, let's talk again soon, Ashley.
That's awesome, Jay.
Have
yeah.
an interesting life so we have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'll try to stay interesting.
Okay.
Awesome. Bye, Jay.
Bye.